It's the network.
Okay, there we go. We're recording. Okay, so today we're going to talk about forms in Rails and how to process the content of the forms in the controller. And we're doing this all without a model. And remember, what the model is access to a database. That's basically what that is. So we're going to skip that for now and just worry about posting data from the view back into the controller, a little bit like we did with the query string fields. All right? So we talked last week about the FormTag, and that created a page with the form information on it. So let's just go back to that. If that ever comes back up. And while that's coming back up, I wanted to talk a little bit before we get to that. One of you had a question about how to find the date, month. If you're given October as a number 10, how do you figure out what the month string is of October? So that's a method called strftime. And while we're talking about that, I want to show you, remember when we did Ruby, we had IRB, interactive Ruby, and we could do things like 2 plus 2 and all that stuff inside of there. We could test our functions, and I tried to get you to use that heavily so that you could just play around, and you don't have to write a whole program just to get a quick answer. So you can test it in there, but Rails has a lot of other functions that they add to the base Ruby language. And so they have a different IRB called the Rails console. And what this does is it basically gives you the same interactive DOS prompts type typing and get instant response, but it gives you all access to the Rails methods. So if you run the Rails console, in IRB we can run it in different environments, but we're going to do the development environment. And this comes up and brings up a typing window in RubyMine. In a DOS prompt or a terminal window, we can do the same by typing Rails space console or Rails space C as a shortcut. And it does the same thing like an IRB session. So I can do stuff like this. I can add 2 and 2 together, and it takes a little bit to load up. And it finally did. Okay, so it says that's 4. I can do, I can set variables in here, like skis is 299.99, and I can look at them. I can print them. I can write loops in here just like an IRB session. So if I had a date, there's an strftime. And yep. So I need to do strftime of percent. Let's see. I think it's %b. And then we give it the date of 10. Nope.
No, it's the date object dot str.
Oh yeah. So I could say date.strftime. I'll get it here eventually. %b. I might have to date.now. So the same up and down arrows work. I can, if I can get rid of this, I can go up and down and look at my previous commands and edit them. Come on. See, it would help if I actually looked at the API documentation. All right, so we'll go look at API rubyonrails.org. We'll go look it up. strftime. And
but you can only run it against a time object.
so it's a time dot strf time. And you have to have this formatted string. And for that, you'd go back to the Rails, the Ruby documentation. So we'll get it. Time.now. There we go. There we go. So we have time.now.str string from time is what that's short for. We're giving it this %b, which you can look up in the Ruby documentation. It'll tell you all of those format strings, and we get October from that. So we'll be using this console a lot more when we get into the models because it is extremely powerful what we can do with it in the models especially. All right, so back to our About Us page. Just a review, if we looked at the source here, the FormTag was provided for us. It gave us the action, the method, and you should know these form tags from your 130 class. We have a hidden input tag with the UTF-8 encoding, and then this authenticity token, which keeps cross-site scripting down. It tries to make sure that the form that is submitted came from the same browser that requested the form in the first place. That's all. So you don't have to worry about that. That's all given to you by Rails with this one form tag. So we can start looking at some other stuff in here. If we look at the let's look at the form tag page. And on this page, there are a lot of methods that are defined to create the input fields that we want. So there's a button tag, a checkbox, radio tag, a number field, a password field, radio buttons. So we just want an input tag. Where is it? Am I missing it? Text field. There we go. Text field tag. All right. So text field tag creates an input tag. So if I use this as a Ruby method, a Rails method, text field tag, and we give it the name of the tag that we want to call it, it will create this tag for us. It gives it an ID. And what is the ID used for? Anybody remember what the ID is for? It's unique across the entire page, but it's also used by JavaScript and jQuery, if you haven't taken that yet, to identify elements on the page quicker. So I can go straight to an ID and change the value of an ID without having to look through the document object model.
It's also used in CSS.
Yes, right. I can style it using the ID, the name, and the type. It comes out as text. So let's just add this and see what the data comes back as. We'll add one field, and we're going to call this name. Let's leave it as name. Now remember, this is a method that takes parameters. So this is the first string parameter, and there are other values that we can add to that, like a label that's going to be put inside of it, all kinds of interesting stuff. We can put the length of the style of the tag, the class, placeholder. Yep, we'll do that in a minute. So let's see what this comes out to be looking like if I reload the page. It didn't work. Why? Very good. So it came out just as text. So that's a very common error, which is why I did it. So I want to output the data, so I use the equal sign. And we wrap it in our ERB tags, reload the page, and bada boom, bada bing, we got a nice little text box here. And I could say, Dave Jones. Now, I don't have a way to submit my page. What does a form need? A button. We need a button. So let's go back to the API here and look at the top. And we can see there's a button tag. There's also a submit tag. We want to use the submit tag. So we're going to do something like this. Submit tag with something like send question or something like that. So we're going to say submit tag inside of here again. Inside of ERB tags, we want to output the data, so we're going to say submit tag. And we're going to say submit your question. All right, so let's reload our page. Oh, it didn't put it in for me? Huh. Terrible. All right, now I've got a nice little submit button. So when I submit this, where does it go? All right, so it says it is going to the same page. See the page / about us. If I look at the source code for that, you'll see that. Here's my form with my 2 tags in it, my name, input field, and my submit button. But the problem is my method is post, and the only value I have, as we saw here, it shows that, what? There's a routing error. There's no method that says post to this page. This is, again, a security feature of Rails to keep you to make your routes correct. So where would I change that? Where do you think I would change that information? In my routes file. Okay, so I'm going to go to my routes. And remember, at the top, I have a get for that page, but I don't have a post for that page. All right, so I could just copy that and change this to post. And let's run this. Well, let's run my rake routes so I can just see it. Now, remember, I don't have to do this. This is for my own purposes. While that's running, let's reload my page. Oh, what did I do? No, it's running. Reload my page. Submit my question again. And it goes back to the same page. I no longer have a routing error. It posted this information to the controller, but I never did anything with it. It just went off into the bit bucket. And it resubmitted my form. It redisplayed my form. All right? So here's the routes. Not only do I have a get, but I have a post available now, and I have a page about us path, URL and path variables, and it depends on how I use them, whether it's a get or a post, but at least the routing is working now. So how would I get the information from the post of the form? Anybody have an idea? How did I get the information from a calendar? Okay, a post doesn't put it in the query string. That's only in a get. So the post puts it somewhere else. It actually puts it in the body of the HTTP request. And so how does the controller, do you think, that gets that data out? Has a hash. Okay, so you're on the right track. In the calendar, we use what hash? Params hash. So in a get or a post, it actually puts it in the same hash. Isn't that convenient? So we don't have to worry too much about it. If I look in my page controller, I can get the data out, much like I did here, param sub something. So I could say, what do you think the name value would be put into in the params hash? Params sub symbol name. That's the name of the form field. So it puts it in here, and I'm going to save that into an instance variable so that I can display it back to the page. All right, so let's go back to my About page and just print out some information. So I'm going to put a div down here, and start outputting some of this information. So I can output name, and let's put an inline style just to make this interesting. How about that? Style, border 1 pixel red solid. How about that? Our failed inline styling. So if I resubmit my form page, it should come back, and I have nothing here because I didn't submit anything. So Dave Jones, and I don't see anything. So I have something wrong.
But your border's showing up.
My border's there. So let's do some debugging here. One thing I could do is output the params hash itself. I can output all of the data in the params hash. So I can say params dot inspect. Remember the inspect method in Ruby? We can use it here, and it will display it on the page. All right, so let's see what I got. It came through. I get the authenticity token because that was a hidden field. I get this UTF-8, which just says, yes, it's selected. My name is set to Dave Jones, and I have a commit tag, which was set to submit your question. I also get these variables, what controller was sent to and what action were sent to, so I could use those if I wanted to. So why didn't my name come out? Because it's capitalized, right? So how would I fix that?
A couple of ways. You can go back to the controller.
Okay.
And change the tags.
It's only capitalized in the params hash. So, yeah, I could change it there too. But let's reload this guy. Resend. And now I get Dave Jones out. So that's being printed from my @ name. It found the right name. So this is a good debugging technique to look at all this information and print it out for yourself. All right? Any questions on that so far? That is part of the assignment. You have to print out what you submit. And I do not want you to just print the params hash. That is not what I'm looking for. That's too simple. So I want you to do something like this. Name. And then maybe put a break tag in here so it looks a little nicer. And then we're going to print their email that's next, right? Plus, and I'm probably going to put it in a variable called email. So doesn't that make sense? We'll put a break tag again, etc. All right. So when I reload this page and resend the data, it's going to look nicer. All right. Except I have a bug. It doesn't know what email is. So email is nil. It can't add a nil to a string. So that's a bug. So how do I fix that? Well, let's add our email tag. Now, one nice thing about Rails is that it deals with HTML5 very nicely. In HTML4 and below, all of the other versions, they did not have a tag called an email tag, an email input tag. They were all just input tags, right? So it makes sense to start using the tags that HTML5 gives us because they degrade nicely across the older browsers that only support HTML4. So there happens to be a tag. If I go back and look over here, it's too big. They have a phone field tag. Let's go back up to the top and see all the tags that I have. I have an email tag. That's a new HTML5 tag. I have a number tag, and we'll play with some of these. A password tag worked before because you said the type equals password, right? So now it's a little different. Search field tag, telephone field tag. These are all new HTML5 tags. So let's do an email field tag. And all we have to do is give it a name. And we'll call it email. Doesn't that make sense? So we'll say email field tag. We'll put it up here. Email field tag. And we'll call it email address. All right, and let's put some break tags at the end of these. You can put these in a table if you want. You can do whatever you want. You can style these as divs if you have that much time on your hands. It would be a lot nicer in a table. I do all my forms in tables. It's easier to style. But the div aficionados don't do that. They put everything in a div, so that's not me. So what else do I have to do for this? I got the name, so let's just go back and load my form up. I can't get there, right? So I'm going to set this to something at email equals, now what do you think the name of the key in my params hash is? Because I named my field email, right? All right, so let's see what I get. And just so I can see the form, I'm going to comment this out. So I'm going to comment out this page, this particular thing. Now notice I put the hash before the equal sign. That makes this entire thing a comment, okay? And it won't read that. So now I should be able to. Doesn't like it still. Yes. All right. So we'll fix that in a minute too. Put that form again. There we go. So now I've got my name and my email address, and I can say Dave Jones and dave@blockersoft.com. And when I submit my information, I get my name here. As the full name that I put here. So I have to use that string to get it out of that that parameter. All right. So we'll probably change that in a minute. Yes.
Is there a way to make those required fields so they can't be blank?
Yes, we'll get to that. All right. So to get that out, I'm going to set my email to param sub email address. And unfortunately, I have to use a symbol with a string next to it.
You have to use it as a symbol?
Yeah. No, you don't have to.
Just run it as a string.
Yeah.
It is a string.
It is a string, yeah. Yeah, we can call it email, but we're gonna change it anyway differently. So. All right, so there we go. I get my name and my email as separate instance variables now, and that's a start. And we'll continue on this path. There's some other parameters we can add to this, and obviously we need something here to tie in to tell them what to type in, right? What is the HTML tag to put next to an input field? Label. All right, so I need a label tag, and there happens to be a label tag in my Rails documentation. So I can give it a label tag, and usually I'm going to use the same name as the tag, and it ties it together better in the browser. So I can add a label tag here. So I'll say label tag, and we'll call it name, and we'll have an email tag, calling it email address. And we'll reload it. Now I've got nicely labeled stuff. And obviously I could put the label tag in one cell and the input tag in another, make it line up better, make it look nice. But I've started creating my form here. So I can add my information, submit my question, and it submits it, puts it back into my div here that I'm displaying the information for debugging purposes. All right, any questions on that so far?
Yeah, how can they create this one? The input field is not aligned.
Yeah, that's what I said. You could put these in tables if you want, or divs that you float in a line, which is really a pain. I would put them in a table so they line up. I'll leave that for you to do. That's just HTML. I would put this in one cell, put this in another cell, and then start a new row, put this in one cell, put this in one cell, start a new row, etc. I leave that to you. That's pure CSS, HTML, way outside the scope of the class. Yeah. Yep, you can use field sets around things. I wasn't going to get to that today, but if you look at the API documentation, they have a field set tag that goes around other tags. So it's like a block of code. So I could say field set tag do if I want to put that in a field set tag. Let's put my name and my email in my field set tag. And I would put an end here. Let's just do that. I'm second guessing myself. So now my name tag is in a field set tag. And there's options for setting the label of the field set, or whatever they call that label, I think it is, etc. So you can play around with that. Field set tag, you can name it. That's what I was talking about.
So we cannot put anything in CSS to format. We cannot do that. Right?
Yeah, you can. This is all straight HTML and CSS. So I can do any styling I want. No, you don't have to do inline styling. So there's the field set tag with the name of it here. No, you should not do inline styling. Where do I put my style sheets in Rails? In my style sheets up here, right? So how would I know how to style this particular input field? I could add a class to it.
Or you could just, in your CSS, define all input fields as being styled like this.
Right. So I can say class is input something like that. Or I could use the ID, whatever I want. All of that stuff is being output, so I can just go into my style sheet and style that however I want. All right. So any other questions? Yeah.
No, I just wanted to share I learned something about inline styles.
Okay, let me stop this then.